In Corporita Bonanza with Hanan Awaad, we will talk about several topics and we will meet successful people and experts in many fields to learn about their success stories and learn from them how to empower ourselves and stimulate our creativity. We will also review important books that enriched our lives. This program is for you, whether you are an employee or searching for your next big opportunity, or managing a business, or a student, or a parent. I'm Hanan Awaad. The world is my canvas and success is my paint. Connect with me and my guests at President at Corporita.ca. In Corporita Bonanza, we will learn from each other and we will grow together. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Corporita Bonanza, where we meet successful people and try to dig for gold nuggets and get some wisdom. Today with me is Connie Deckert, President of ForeU Enterprises. This is the last thing she is doing now, but before that, oh my God, she had an incredible journey as an entrepreneur. And she's the lady of many talents, as I love to call her. The only daughter of an entrepreneur based here in Waterloo region who established a manufacturing company for mufflers in Elmira in the late 50s. Her father built a great reputation, and she continued, and she also built a great reputation not only in manufacturing but also in golf. Connie.
Good morning, everyone.
I'm so happy having you here today. And let me tell the audience how we met. We met in a networking event for women. And I remember you introduced yourself in an amazing way. When I asked you, what do? You told me, I help women play in the boys' club.
It's very handy to be able to play golf and play with men because that's where a lot of decisions are done.
Last year we had a reportage and we had several ladies who work in male-dominated fields, and one of the themes that kept repeating is socializing when you are in male-dominated fields. So it's very handy to play golf.
Very handy to play golf, and it lets you learn more about the person you're interacting with, and you may want to do business with them or you may not want to once you find out who they really are.
We definitely will talk more about golf and so many other topics, but I want to start with the early beginnings because this is also interesting. So I knew that your father started his business more than 50 years ago, and as an only child, you were involved in the business in very, very early stage.
I was exposed. We started the business, I think, when I was 6, and my mother's first comment was, how are we going to eat? But it worked out okay, and I watched the business right from its birth, and it was just fascinating how my father did it. He learned tool and die in the Army, and so he built all the machines to start the business. It was fascinating.
But your mom was worried.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, she was worried because she, the first thing she worries about is taking care of the family.
Yeah. So he went from just owning a garage and providing services to cars to becoming a manufacturer.
Yes.
And you watched this. You have seen this journey yourself.
Yes. Yes, we went from delivering mufflers on our own private truck to places here in Ontario to selling mufflers across Canada, in the U.S., and in the Bahamas.
Okay. So in those early years and being involved in a way or another, or even just watching the process of building a business or acquiring a business, or how this is different than building a business now?
I think building a business now, social media has such an impact. But back then, it was old-fashioned relationships, which is what business is all about. And you can interact with people on email or social media, but there's nothing beats being face-to-face with someone.
Okay, so do you think that we lost this human touch or human connection with social media?
Somewhat, yes, because families don't even talk around the dinner table. Like people are on their phones, and some schools are now looking at banning cell phones because that does not teach you social interaction. It's you need to know how to talk to people. You need to know how to, meet them, greet them, shake their hand, and the most important thing you need to know is how to listen, and then understand what you're hearing, and respond.
I remember when we were talking earlier, and you mentioned something about transferable skills and how this plays a significant role in your success. So do you think that these skills are part of the transferable skills?
Oh, that's a skill no matter what you're doing, listening and responding. I think you want to be what's the definition of an active listener, so that you're not on your own wavelength. You're listening to the person in front of you, and then responding to what they're saying. Watch the body language. All those things you can't pick up on social media.
Yeah. So back to golf. But again, we are still in the early years or the first phases of your life. And when did you start your passion to golf?
One day, my dad came home with 3 sets of clubs for all of us in the family.
Oh.
And I was introduced to the game, and it became my passion. I enjoyed it. You never master golf. The best you can do is make friends with it, and some days that's a stretch.
Oh. How old was you at that time?
I think 11 or 12.
11 years. Okay. So again, it's your father who introduced you to the game.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you are not playing golf, what
are my passions?
Yes.
I'm a lifelong learner, so with the interest in news, so I'm an avid reader. I sing in a chorus that has about 75 others, so I can hide, and I love to travel.
Okay, where did you travel?
I just got back from a river cruise in Russia.
Okay, and you are traveling soon. Wait, to where?
Oh, I'm going to the Caribbean later this week.
Okay, yes, enjoy. We are back with Connie Deckert discussing wonderful topics about golf, business, life, singing, travel. And we are switching between these topics swiftly. So let's go back to golf and your passion since you were a kid, 11 years old, when your father introduced you to golf. And I knew that the great Gus Maui was your teacher back then. So let's talk about him and the role of having a mentor and a good teacher early.
It's very important to have someone you can rely on. And I had a passion for golf, but golf's a very complicated game, as life is very complicated. And we need people we can rely on, people to guide us, that support us, educate us, and empower us.
Okay.
And that is so important. You don't want someone to tell you what to do, but you may want them to, with a golf teacher, yes, you need to do certain things. And in life, you need to do certain things to succeed. But it's all about having them help you find your way and tap into your passion.
Yeah, I think the key word is empower. But I think it is also important to know how to find a mentor. So, because I've been talking to many women and even myself, we are surrounded by great role models, but having that special someone that can be your mentor and have this mutual relationship, it's not easy.
No, it's not easy, and the best thing all of us can do is expose ourselves to many people in networking events or in service clubs. And we're not going to connect with everybody, but if we do connect with someone, to have the courage to approach them. And if they haven't got the time or inclination, they can refer you to someone. And also to keep your eyes and ears open and watch the people around you and see who's interacting with who. And if you see another person that you admire, ask them if they work with anyone or have a mentor.
So you said that you are a lifelong learner. So how do you become a learner?
I'm passionate about life, and I'm not going to live long enough to learn all that I want to learn. There's so many facets.
Your bucket list is huge.
Yes. Absolutely.
So by high school, you had built a reputation for yourself in golf, and you got involved with many tournaments, and you even landed a contract with Disney, or an offer, or a job offer from Disney. Let's talk about this, because at high school you were so young.
Well, this came just after high school because I was fortunate enough to be able. Back then, there was no mini tour, there was no qualifying school. If you wanted to play on the LPGA tour, you had to go onto the tour and try and qualify.
What's LPGA?
Okay. Ladies Professional Golf Association.
Okay.
Which has, I think it's the longest running women's sports organization. I'm very proud to be a member. So for Canadians, you're in the U.S., so you cannot necessarily work without a green card. And so you can go down and try out the tour. That's different because it's sports. But not many people succeed on the tour right away. I tried the tour and then went to the very first qualifying school that the LPGA ran. So normally when you do something the first time, you're not as good as you're going to be the second time you run it. So went through the qualifying school, was not successful. And to stay and work on my game in Florida, I would have needed a job. I was lucky enough to be offered a position at Disney in Orlando because they were just opening the courses. So that dates it right away. But I didn't have a green card, so I ended up coming back to Canada.
To do what? Because I know there is a story here.
When I came back to Canada, I was thinking about going into journalism at Conestoga College because I'm a news hound. And my father had a falling out with a woman that worked in our office at the plant in Elmira. And there's only enough of us for a baseball team. It was not a big company and still isn't really big. And he didn't have the falling out to get me in because that was never discussed in our family. But something went wrong between the two of them, and I started in the office, I thought temporarily, to help him out. 35 years later, I was still there.
Yes, and we will talk definitely about this. But you decided to study journalism, but you ended up working in totally different fields. And this theme, I can see it over and over and over, that many of us decide to study something and we end up working for something else. My observation is that many people feel regret or feel that they missed something, not working on their first passion, because usually we choose our study based on our passion at that time. But other people can turn this into their benefit. So no matter what you studied, no matter what you ended up, they have no regrets. Yeah.
I don't have any regrets. I think one facet of journalism would be communication.
Okay.
And so I've spent my lifetime doing that. If one believes in numerology, supposedly my life path, the number I have is I'm supposed to be a connector in this life.
Okay, and what's that number?
I can't remember what the number is.
4?
I have to work it out again.
Yeah, because I have a little bit
I think it's
of knowledge.
3.
3? Okay. So
So-
you are the connector.
Yeah, so I've been meeting people all my life, and if I meet someone that I think can help someone else or might be interested, I do my utmost to connect. Because life is like, what is it? Life is a banquet, and most poor fools are starving to death.
I love this. I love this. You worked with your father as a temporary assistant who lasted for 35 years. But in 1985, you lost your father for cancer, and you kept running the business for 23 years after his death, until you decided to sell the factory. Let's talk about your success during that time. It's a tough field, manufacturing. Yes. It's highly dominated by men, and you were young with no technical background. Official technical background. So what are the challenges that you faced?
Being taken seriously as a woman in a manufacturing field. And I made a lot of my customers were across Canada, so I talked to many of them by phone, but I didn't have the luxury of meeting them all the time. But when I got to certain areas of the country, if I was making sales calls, I would meet these people sometimes for the first time, even though we'd talked for years on the phone.
Oh.
And one time I walked into one account, and I don't know if I'd called ahead or not, but I think I had. And when I walked in, the gentleman that was running it thought I was the census taker. And if you have knowledge of your product and what it can do and what it can't do and what your capabilities are, as long as you can answer the questions and establish your credibility, I think you're fine. Mm-hmm. But you better know your stuff.
Mm-hmm. I think that many women shy away from sales, and they got intimidated. I'm one of these women, by the way. I've been selling all my life, but I'm still intimidated by this. So part of your role with the company was to managing accounts and sales. Mm-hmm. So how did you do it?
Well, at one point in the business, we had customers coast to coast, so it was difficult to physically see them. So one year, I bought a motorhome, 27 foot, and I was married at the time, and so my husband and I spent 12 weeks on the road in 3-week increments, going across Canada, calling on accounts. And we spent 12 weeks one year and 9 weeks the second year, and that helped business.
Oh.
And we also, a couple other things we did were established 800 numbers. Back in the day when telephones and faxes were used, we had an 800 telephone number. Business went up almost 15% when we put that in. And then we put an 800 fax number.
Mm-hmm. And also you talked about establishing your credibility as a business, but also as an individual running the business.
Yes. Yes, that's what I mean, that if a customer asks me a question, I better know the answer or be able to find it out very quickly. Mm-hmm. And there was no BS involved, because that's going to wreck your credibility. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't know the answer, you admit it and get it as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's very important to establish trust.
Yes. And
here in Canada, I think trust is huge. Like in anywhere, but especially in Canada, our work is based on trust. So for a woman who's starting a business, how to establish this trust when she has all these barriers, being a woman, and if she belongs to a minority group, this is another issue. So few practical steps how a woman can establish this trust.
It's actually, I don't want to say it's easy. I don't, because there are built-in biases with people we call on, but treat people you want to do business with the same way you want to be treated yourself. Mm-hmm. And be consistent. Mm-hmm. And just the person in front of you is the most important person in the world at that point. Mm-hmm. And take good care of them. And establish your credibility, and it will just spread without you having to, I don't say not having to work on it, but just constantly put the building blocks in place till the foundation's solid, and then go. Mm-hmm. Word of mouth is the best advertising you can have.
Yeah, even in the digital economy that we live in, with all social media, still word of mouth is the best advertisement.
An excellent reputation is the best thing you can have, because if people can trust you, and they know if you asked, or if they asked you something and you can't answer it, you're not afraid to admit it. Don't baffle them with BS, because it just wrecks your credibility. Because it's not right. But
when we are talking about your business and your journey in golf, we talk about many years. And these days, there is the notion of overnight success. And I get involved in discussions with my team, especially the millennials, and they don't see that success needs many years to be accomplished.
They unfortunately are naive. It's like building a house. You have to dig the hole, put the foundation in, build the house, and eventually put the roof on. But it doesn't happen all at once.
Yeah.
And if you're going to establish credibility and trust, it takes lots and lots of hours, and it can be ruined in one, fell swoop if something goes radically wrong. And it's hard to reestablish trust.
Yeah, and I can see that the trend of the 4 hours work week is counterpart with many books talking about the investment in time and effort that successful people that we know and talk about now put in. One of the great journalists that I love to read is Malcolm Gladwell. And he talked about the 10,000 hours that Bill Gates invested in developing his DOS, and other people who invested long hours working on something. And to us as external viewers, we suddenly see them boom, bang, but we don't know about what was behind this success.
That's right. It's like when you see a duck going across a lake. Top of the duck looks calm, relaxed. Underneath, they're paddling like heck, because and in life there is so much to learn, and you never stop learning.
Yeah.
Like, I teach golf differently now than I taught it last week, because you're constantly learning,
Yeah.
and you have to respond to the person you're working with at that time.
Yeah.
And you almost need a psychology degree to be in business.
That's great. That's why your journalism degree comes handy.
Yeah.
Yeah. You ran the business for almost 2 decades after your father's passed away, and I don't want to say suddenly you decided to sell the business, because I know there is lots of thinking behind this. Let's talk about this phase of your life, selling the family business.
Yeah, it was something like, when you're in a family business, depending on the size of the family business, you may have no outside input as to your capabilities. Some people have advisory boards depending on the size of their business. I didn't have that, and the business was going along quite well. I probably didn't understand that not everybody can run a business. I thought it was pretty easy to do this because I had grown up with the business, and so I did it as almost second nature. And so it didn't...
And you were successful running it for decades.
Yes. My father actually, when my father turned 65 in 1985, we flipped shares, and I was technically the boss, which was kind of funny, because as long as he was there, as long as he was alive, he was the boss. It didn't matter if he was there one day a year. But after running it maybe for, I don't know, maybe it was 20 years, you start to get a little itchy, and you're wondering what else is out there, and you don't know what else you're capable of because you haven't had any outside input. So that's when I decided to, I was very involved in the community. I'd been in Zonta for probably 10, 15 years at that point.
And we will talk about your role as a community builder. Yeah.
So that's when I decided to take the Leadership Waterloo Region course to learn more about the community and see where I was with everybody else that was in the course. Mm-hmm. And so it gave me some confidence to then maybe make more steps. Mm-hmm. And I looked at coaching, and I was involved in people I think, said, Laurier combined music and learning, and so then decided to look at golf. A buddy of mine started listing some skills that she thought I had that were transferable, and it was just a whole new thing to me because I didn't realize what skills I had. I just did what I did.
Yeah, and this is very important because when I'm coaching women and we do a SWOT analysis, what's your strengths and weaknesses and what's the opportunities out there and threats, I can see women are so inclined to list lots of weaknesses or things they don't have, and they struggle a lot coming with strength or talents or skills they already have. So let's reflect a little bit about this exercise.
Well, that's a great idea, but what it doesn't, maybe it doesn't take, I don't think people understand the passion. Because we have something inside that drives us. We can call it many things, and whether there's a hunger, whether there's a passion, and that most of us are a lot stronger than we think.
Yeah.
And
Can we have multiple passions?
absolutely. And I think the most limiting space is the space between our ears, because our thoughts
Yeah.
put us in boxes or they chain us.
Yeah.
And why not? Like, flip it and look at it and say, why can't I?
Yeah. Yeah. So how difficult was the decision of selling the business?
It was difficult because it was a place I had always been. I felt like a caretaker with the business because it was my father's passion. And it didn't matter if I was there for 35 years or not. And then you're like stepping into the abyss because you have a team with you at the business and you have a place to go. And then when you become a golf teacher, if you're a golf teacher at a facility, you work by appointments, and it's just you. And
It's a totally different lifestyle.
yes,
You are committed 9 to 5 versus leading a more flexible lifestyle
Yes.
and work style as well. Yeah.
but a lot of if you don't have self-discipline, then you're not going to succeed no matter what you're in, because there are certain things when you're an entrepreneur, there are many hats you wear.
Yeah.
And some days some fall off.
Yeah.
Right? Because and all things need to be done. You still need to promote the business. You need to take care of your customers. You need to have visibility. You have to have credibility. All those things.
Yeah. So when you were at the manufacturing business, you inherited an established business, but when you decided to go on your own, you started from nothing, really nothing. How did you start this? What was your process to establish the business?
Well, when I decided to go into the golf business, I contacted two people that I had high regard for. The first being Sandra Post, who was
And I remember you told me about that emotional email.
Yes, I waited till my staff left one night at the business, and I emailed Sandra with questions or telling her what I was thinking about it. And when I hit send, I burst into tears. I had no idea that was coming. And I happened to see Sandra that weekend at a golf show, and she was very supportive, and she still is to this day. And after talking to Sandra and getting some direction, I put that in motion, and then I also consulted my first teacher, Gus Mount, and he was very supportive. And then I needed to find a place to teach, and that evolved. And then I got somebody else connected me with someone else for another place to teach, and that worked. And it was I believe it was because these people knew who I was and trusted me, that they were willing to recommend me to certain individuals that I might teach at those facilities.
And I also remember you told me in the 90s, while you were in the manufacturing business, you helped your friend establish a travel agency. So was that like a small training, on-the-job training?
Oh, that was actually mid-'80s because my friend was in the travel business. She was doing an excellent job, but maybe the agency wasn't remunerating her equivalent to what business she was bringing in, so she wanted to start the agency, and I was encouraging her, but she still wouldn't do it on her own. And then I was telling my dad about it, and he said, why don't you and her start it? And I never thought of that. And so anyway, we did. And unfortunately, we opened the travel agency in late 85 on a Monday, and he passed away on the next day.
Oh.
And that changed my job at the business, so I had to we had to structure the travel agency a little differently.
So let's talk about the practical steps of establishing a business. So many business coaches talk about the desire, and frankly speaking, I don't see people lack the desire. Sometimes they lack the know-how, or they don't know where to start, or what's the elements they need to pile. And many small business owners, they don't start with a business plan even. So let's talk about the practical side of things.
I think the best thing you can do if you want to start a business is put on the customer's hat and define how the customer is going to learn about you, how they're going to, and what you're going to give that customer that's going to add value to their business or to whatever they're doing. You have to look at it from the other side. It's not about you, it's about the customer. And in the muffler business, there was a triple win involved. If I sold something to my customer, it was a win for me. And if that customer sold my product to a customer of his or hers, and that worked well. Three of us are happy, I guess, and that's what you need. Everything has to add value, or add something. People may not call it value, but it's just, if things are going to work better because of a product, that's what you need. But you have to look at it from the outside in.
And it's very interesting because at some time you were dealing with a physical product, and then you moved to some sort of intangible product or service. So is there a difference between managing businesses?
Well, with the product, you have to make sure the product is made correctly and to the specifications. We had product lines, but we also did a lot of custom work. And so the specifications had to be right. The delivery time had to be right. All those things. With golf, you need to you need to hear what the needs of your customer are and respond to those. And take good care to make sure that there's nothing physically impacting their golf swing. You have to clarify that before you even start to teach. And because sometimes people have, I don't want to say ailments, but they might have physical limitations, but you need to know that before you suggest how we're going to address what they're concerned about.
You, almost all your life, you were in careers or fields dominated by men. And that was several decades back. And I reflect on the current situation and how we still fight for equality. We are, as women, far from equal representation in business, sports, academia, science. Why is that? Why we don't progress in a higher rate?
It takes a lot of work, and the bias is there. It's changing. And if you look at some of the stats, like for engineering at the university, I think over 50% of the engineering students now are female. So it's going to take generations, but it's coming. Whether we'll ever be 50-50, I don't know. Different cultures, different philosophies. But it's there's no reason we can't. And we do things differently. Women tend to be more web-oriented, not the World Wide Web. When we deal with people, we are web-oriented. We consult a lot, and I'm not saying men don't consult, but they're more hierarchy. And our MO is different.
And actually, that was my next question, because I know that you coached at the University of Guelph, and you coached both men team and women team. And of course, you dealt with men and women in business. How we are different than men?
Oh, I don't want to say women are more emotional. Men are maybe emotional, but maybe not show
away,
it as much.
away from stereotyping, away of or sometimes the stereotypes are great. Yeah.
Well, I think there's more, shall we say, more directness with men, that they might not think of the emotional cost of doing something, but where we're a little more. I don't want to make an assumption, but I think women are a little holistic. But it just depends how driven they are. Like, it just depends. But there was more chatter around the women's team than there ever was around the men's team. Like, the instruction was just less. So, but the women also needed more support in that women's golf, even when I started to coach it at the University of Guelph, was a new sport for our Canadian universities. The men's teams were established years ahead, and then finally the women's teams came on board, and that was Judy McCrae from the University of Waterloo was instrumental in getting that to happen. And it was really great to finally see women's golf be part of the university program.
So what do we need to learn to bridge the gap? If you are saying, okay, do we need to be more direct like men, or tap into, those attributes or characteristics of being a woman? What do we need to learn?
To have confidence in ourselves. And it takes a village for all of us. Like, none of us do anything by ourselves, right? But we need a support structure, and we almost need we could have our own personal advisory board where you get friends together and you each support each other.
Yeah.
Because men have been doing that a long time because of sports, right? And women are, we're not that sports oriented. That's just their method of hanging around each other. So women have other things. We might do it at the spa. Who knows?
It's very interesting because I was talking to a group of women, and the discussion started of every lady in the group saying how awesome other ladies in her life supported her. And one lady, actually that lady was me, reflecting on the damage I received by other women, or the hurt, or the cat fights, or something like this. And I was reflecting on my personal life, and then the other ladies started to share similar stories that they kept hiding, and how sometimes we find our tribe.
Yes.
And we support each other, but in many cases in the corporate world, it's catfights.
Oh, it can be. And success, if you have passion and are driven, other people, if they're jealous, they're going to try and tear you down. All our agendas don't match, and even like you can sit on a board, you can run a business. Like, agendas don't necessarily match. You want to find your people. You want to find your tribe, and you want to find people that are going to empower you, not tear you down. Life is tough enough. So hang with people that are positive and empowering.
Yes, and this is something definitely
and that you can trust. That if you say something to them, it's not going to be broadcast in the whole community.
Oh,
because we need places to decompress and vent, right?
I remember in one of our talks, you used a nice analogy that I really liked. You said Fred Astaire and Ginger were doing the same thing, but Ginger did it in what? So
Ginger did it in high heels and backward, and she doesn't get the credit she deserves. Fred gets all, like, you say Fred Astaire, everybody knows who that is.
Yeah.
You say Ginger, they don't necessarily know.
Yeah. And why is that?
It's society. And you talk about male sports stars, Like if we name Christine Sinclair, who's the star of our women's soccer team in Canada, how many people know that name?
I don't know her.
Yeah.
See, yeah, I'm feeling terrible now. and lately I was involved in a project that's trying to give credit to women scientists across the history of science. And oh my God, all the early development of the big breakthroughs that we had, there are women names, that were omitted deliberately, or a scientist who were wrote as admin assistant or something like that. That was, oh my God, why did you do this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it still goes on. The Golden Globes were given out last week, and Greta Gerwig was virtually the director on a film, but she was not given that title. There was still a male director on the film, and yet when the award was given up, he called her up right away. And it's like, why? Why give her top billing?
Do you think that we don't fight for getting the credit much?
I don't know if the mindset has so long been male, like in the cave, but it was back caveman style. Yeah, the guys were strong and they could go out and kill the animals. But if the household didn't run, the women ran the household, and we still do. And it's like, come on, society has changed. It's 2018. So there's no reason women can't do anything.
Yeah. And I'm amazed that the first cave paintings were done by women, and the agriculture, actually women, those early ancestors noticed how the growth happens in the soil and planted the first seeds, and oh my God.
Mm-hmm. And I can remember being in Africa some years ago, and we're out watching the animals, and it was just incredible to be there. And our guide was telling us about lions. So when they make a kill, the women lions let the male lion eat first, then eat later. It's like most of the time the women do the kill. So
Yes.
It's like, why don't they eat first?
yes. And this same story I was thinking of, and I think because females are caregivers or caretakers, so we take care of everyone around us and make sure that everyone is well fed.
Web.
And yes.
That's the web.
Yeah. I would like to reflect on the web analogy that you used. There was an experiment when they had MRIs to men and women brains while doing some tasks, and there were lots of distractions. They were doing the same task, some simple assembly task, and a group of men who managed to finish the task, they had all the signals in one area in the brain because they were on the task, they were focusing on the task. Women completed the task the same way, the same rates of success, but they took notice of all the distractions and everything happening around them, and the brain signals were everywhere. So this, just imagine the signals as like a web in our minds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
Because we take, and there's assets or pluses and minuses about each way of operating.
Yeah. And I think this ability to read emotions, and actually we are higher in emotional intelligence. That's why we are sometimes charged emotionally, and maybe that's why there are some conflicts between women sometimes.
Yeah, emotional intelligence is almost the most valuable intelligence to have. Like, it's great to be intellectually smart, but people will always remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, I remember when we both reflected on Maya Angelou's saying, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super important.
Yeah. So you are a community builder. You were a member in Zonta Club for 25 years. You are a graduate of Leadership Waterloo Region. And let me explain to our audience who are not familiar with Leadership Waterloo Region. It's a community organization that's invested in building leaders. I'm a graduate, so I'm biased.
Yeah.
I'm biased. And you are involved in so many community organizations. So was it natural inclination or it was a decision? I want to be something in my community.
It's a natural inclination. Heather Bishop, a folk singer here in Canada who has been given the Order of Manitoba, I was watching her at a concert one night, and sometimes the performers do a little patter between songs, and she came out with a line, it's the responsibility of those of us with freedoms to act on behalf of those who have not. And it was like I was kicked in the stomach. Mm-hmm. It just, wake up. Mm-hmm. And too much is given, much is expected. We are so fortunate in this country, and not everybody is as fortunate as some of us, and so we need to help each other.
Yes, and it really bothers me that we are in Canada, in that developed country, and we have great passion to help others, but we still suffer from underemployment, from homelessness, mental health issues. I was talking to Brenda Halloran, and we were discussing human trafficking. Okay. And oh my God, I felt this clench in my heart. Do we still have this? Do we still live in the Middle Ages? And what's missing? Are we missing something?
I think we're missing community. Like back when we talk tribes, like indigenous tribes. One book I read said in a tribe, when a youngster is born, they were passed around the whole tribe. Mm-hmm. So they knew.
Like in Africa. In Africa they do
that those, as that child grows, they know they have all that support. Mm-hmm. Here, in North America, we're a very individualistic society.
Yeah.
And there's pluses and minuses again, but we need community, and we need to know humans are social. Mm-hmm. We need the connectedness.
Mm-hmm. You know, the KW Community Foundation, in their latest report, the theme of belonging kept coming over and over and over. And we praise multiculturalism, we praise diversity, but at the same time, we cry for belonging. So how can we bridge this? How we can have a diverse community, but at the same time, everyone feels belonging to this community?
Well, one of the easiest ways to meet others is to volunteer. Mm-hmm. And depending where you volunteer, you're going to be exposed to the diversity of this community. Mm-hmm. I can remember when I was in Leadership Waterloo Region, we were working with the House of Friendship to put a pamphlet out about voting, because not everybody that immigrates to Canada is used to the fact they can vote.
Yes, yeah.
And this was 0304, I was in the program, and they were going to publish the pamphlet in 37 languages in this community, and that wasn't enough languages. Like, they needed more, which is just incredible.
Yeah, I was talking to a chaplain who is involved with the hospital, the Grand River Hospital, and he asked me, how many religions do you think we have in our community? And I said, I don't know, 50, and that was a huge estimate on my side. He said more than 300 different religions and sects. So that's why I think it's so difficult to create this sense of belonging when we have so many attributes, that define each individual.
And it's learning how to bridge the gap.
Exactly.
And cultures stay together. And
Yes.
that's not wrong, but it doesn't help break the barriers down.
Yeah. My personal say on barriers is that we focus a lot on barriers, but we don't focus enough on the common things. And this is something when I started to shift my thinking from what makes me different than others to what makes me similar to others.
Yes, when we did the Diversity Day with Leadership Waterloo Region, we had people from other cultures come in, and you realize they want the same thing. They want a safe place to live. They want to raise their kids. They want to have fun. They want to be able to exercise and enjoy cultural events. And we are so rich in this community.
Yes, definitely yes. Let's talk a little bit about golf. We've been talking about golf a lot, but golf to me is an intimidating sport. And this is my personal count, this is not for everyone, but personally I feel that it's an elite sport. When I close my eyes, I imagine white-haired men. Why someone like me feels intimidated by a sport like golf?
Golf, there are people that believe that you have to belong to a country club to play golf. That is, sorry, but it's an old-fashioned view of the game. Now we have people from 6 to 86 playing the game everywhere and anywhere. Junior golf is starting to explode in the U.S. I hope it carries over to this. Golf, again, is we're talking individualistic society. Golf is an individual game. So for kids, sometimes it's not attractive. But now with juniors at clubs, and this is going on in this area too, where when the juniors come to the course, they give them team shirts, so they feel part of
a team.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
again, to the belonging.
Right.
Team.
Exactly. Exactly. And I was at the PGA show in Orlando last January, and sitting in on some seminars, and the kids get to play scrambles, where they'll go out as a team of 4 and everybody will be taking shots. It's not just on one person. And they may go on to be individual players, and let's hope that happens, because it's a lifelong sport. It's an individual sport. It's not like team sports you learn in public school or high school, and then when you graduate, you don't have everybody else to play with. You have to find somebody. But golf, you're good. You can play it your whole life. You can play alone, or you can play with 3 other people.
What did you learn from playing golf?
We don't have enough time.
No, we have.
Golf is all about managing self. And it's good sportsmanship. It's treating the other person with respect. But learning how to manage yourself. And that is huge, no matter what you're in. And understanding your emotions, understanding, like, you can do the SWOT analysis of your golf game, because there's many facets to golf, and find out where you're strong, where your game needs work. So there's all kinds of things.
So those things that you learned in golf, did it help you in life and in business?
Absolutely, because the golf, your favorite shot's the next one, but it's like you can never be. Arrogant people just rub me the wrong way, because there's so much to learn, and but in golf, you never know how the shot's going to come off.
Yes, and this is something, because of my engineering background, I think of projectiles. Oh my God, there is all kind of forces on this little ball.
Oh, there's so many things that can happen, and when you step up to a shot, you have intent. After you finish the shot, you have result. If you can get them to match, it's wonderful.
Love this.
But there are so many things that can impact a shot.
Oh my God, I can use the same analogy for business. So when you think to start a business, you have an intent. And unless you have a process and you put it into, actualization, you will get the result.
Yes, it's very simple.
Yeah.
Anything. You can, we all have intent, but it's trying to get the result we want.
Yeah. And also, I think one of the things, because now I reflect on my thinking, there's so many elements changing the game. So even in business, there are so many elements.
Yes, in golf, it depends what time of the day you tee off. Like in tournaments, like on tour, a PGA or LPGA tour, play in the morning, you're going to have one set of weather elements. Play in the afternoon might be totally different. And the grass is growing all day, so things change on the greens. The position of the sun affects how you putt on the greens. Like, there's just mitigating factors.
So you are a pro in business and in sport. How do you become a pro?
Work. I have 2 teaching accreditations. Like with the business, it was just experience. And I'm learning every day, so am I a pro? I don't really know, but
I know that you are a pro. I researched you well.
But in golf, I've got 4 different accreditations, and I'm a Canadian Golf Teachers Federation member. I've got that first to get some letters behind my name. As Sandra Post said, get letters behind your name so people think you know what you're talking about. And then I went back to my first passion, which was the LPGA. And we go through the apprentice level, we go through Class B, we go through Class A. And when I got my Class A accreditation, I was one happy camper because it's absolute validation that you know what you're doing.
And this is also something I tell to newcomers who wants to establish themselves here in Canada. And I tell them, don't waste time, just go directly to accreditation to get those letters behind your name.
Yes, because it shows you care, and it outside validation for your knowledge.
Yes. I want to shift gear to some more sensitive topic. Your friend Heike Martens wrote a book on grief, and she mentioned your name in acknowledgement. And I know that you went through some tough time losing your father. Even your necklace, to our audience who cannot see you, your necklace says live, love, and laugh. So how can we face such tough situations?
Lead with your heart. Just care. My friend did not pass away. We say she was safe. So yes, when my father, we'll talk about all 3. So when my father passed away, I had lots of support around me, but I said I can either go cower in the corner or face it head on. It was grow up time. When I walked up the path to our business, when I came up the sidewalk the next morning, I said, training wheels are off. And so you have to carry on. And he trained me well, he empowered me, but it still wasn't the same. Like about a month later, I read an article that said 70 to 80% of family businesses do not succeed when they go to the second generation. Just a little bit intimidating.
Yes.
When I bought the necklace, it was for a friend who had toxic shock and staph. This was back same year, early 85. And she had a 5% chance of making it. And she did.
Yes.
But she has lifelong things that are wrong that have restricted what she can do because of what happened at that time. And with Heike, we kept running into events here in town because we're both, I don't want to say we're ardent feminists, we're ardent humanists. But,
exactly. I stopped using the word feminist. I'm not a feminist. I'm a humanist.
A humanist. And we became friends. And when Richard got the diagnosis, it was very, very hard. And all I did was try to be supportive. Yeah, it's life has good parts and it has good, I'm not saying good and bad, it's hard to, but there are challenges and growth that we grow in those instances and find out what we're capable, and we find out what the people around us are capable of.
Back to the necklace. and those 3 words, live, love, and laugh. And that was way before Elizabeth Gilbert book. Yeah, but is there a way to arrange the words?
Well, I think the words are arranged in, I think, the right order. When I saw the necklace, I thought it was perfect for my friend. I didn't know she couldn't wear gold. So when I was going through tough times later, some years later, I got the necklace back, and I wear it very proudly. But we have to be alive, right?
Yeah.
So we have to live and
appreciate life.
yes. And when you love, you can love people. You can love, I don't want to say things, but experiences. You can be passionate about the environment.
And love yourself.
Yes. It has to start at home, and you can be passionate about golf or tennis or your work, but your heart has to be open.
Yeah.
And then, when you are fortunate enough to love, the laughter comes.
Yeah.
And it's much
it's a
more,
representation of happiness.
Yes.
Yeah.
And laughter is much easier and richer.
Yes. So I will end. I don't want to end this interview. Actually, I enjoy it to the maximum. But I will end it with the topic of recognition. So you've been recognized for your work and your involvement in 2010 with the Waterloo Region Women, and later by the Queen Jubilee Medal. What does recognition means to you?
I don't want to say it's embarrassing. It's very nice to be acknowledged, but everybody should be, because everybody contributes in their own way, and my way is no better than anybody else's. It's giving all of us the encouragement to be the best we can be, and it's wonderful to be recognized. But there's thousands and millions of people that don't get recognized for what they do.
Yeah, but it's good to be recognized, because you set role model, a good example to others to follow. So, thank you so much.
Thank you.
First, for being here, and foremost for being an active member in our community and helping build a vibrant community like ours. Thank you so much. So I'd love you to say just a few words to our audience to conclude this interview.
I'd say follow your heart and don't let your head get in the way of what your heart wants to do.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to Corporita Bonanza with Hanan Awaad. Catch our next episode on Thursday, and don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter at www.corporita.info to receive our articles to learn everything you need to pave your way to success.